Hi, this is Catherine. This is Taking Tea with Catherine. This is Emily Dickinson's Jasmine Tea Blend. It has jasmine green tea, jasmine flowers, rose flowers, marigold, blue cornflower petals. It seems to end up in every tea flowery blend. Anyway, I thought it would be a little in theme with my TBR for April because I am going to be reading something from Emily Dickinson, so there you go. And I chose a Shakespeare mug, even though I don't think I'll be reading Shakespeare. I want to. I want to find time to do so, but I'm not going to make any promises because April just reminds me of Shakespeare. Not so much for BookTube because that's September, but because Shakespeare was supposedly born in April, probably the 23rd or thereabouts. He definitely died in April, so that is a Shakespearean month, right? So I thought it works. But we'll see if I actually can fit Shakespeare into my TBR. So this is April TBR, and I'm going to say I know that TBR means to be read, which is good, and this is hopefully the plan for April, but I am going to say that my own definition, I think, from now on is to begin reading. Because I already have a ton of books that I'm reading, I'm in the middle of, or was about to start, or anything, and don't think I'm going to have it finished by the end of March. That just seems impossible for me, but I still want to start a bunch of these books. There's a bunch of things that I want to read with other people, or some by myself, my own little projects and stuff, so I think it might just be good to say I'm going to begin a lot of these books. And May has a couple of things, a couple of activities I might get involved with. We'll see. June, I haven't planned anything specific yet. Excuse me. My hopes is that June will be my late spring cleaning, in which I really do a good finish up to complete, to be read for real. But we'll see. But that would be a good goal because that would be right before July, which is when I start a big thing. And so let's get started on what I plan to begin. Itchy allergy stuff is happening again. That is not really seasonal. That's just all year long for me, really. But I think it just gets worse. Anyway, so yeah, there's a lot of things in April that I want to read for, like events, stuff like that. Not so much big reading BookTube events, but just things that are supposedly happening in April or have happened in April, etc. But I'm going to start with a couple of, one miscellaneous, I guess. A goal I would like to reach is to read and complete at least a few more library books and to stop taking out as many. I realize that so far my public library has that grace period where if you can't renew something and you keep it out, you're not going to get fined, which I try not to take advantage of too much because I know other people are waiting for books. But I also know that it makes me comfortable not having to rush through certain books. But they've been kind of extending this. First it was October, then it was the end of December, and now the end of June. Now they may extend it again till like September. But can I really take that chance? So that means I want to tackle some library books. I'm obviously not just going to focus on library books. So one of the library books that I have, actually I just got out recently, and it is the latest in the Peculiar Crimes Unit mystery, which is exciting because I love that series so much, and it kind of left in a sort of sad moment there. And this is Oranges and Lemons by Christopher Fowler. Look how springy it looks. I thought that was kind of appropriate for April as well, the blossoms and everything. My nose is just getting itchy looking at this, but it's very London-y, and Oranges and Lemons is kind of like, I'm not going to sing it now, but it's a song that comes from a London-based song, but my mom used to sing it to us, and I don't think she even realized that, but it was a nice little connection. I don't know. So that might be interesting, and it's the mystery that I have. I'm probably going to read more because I read a lot of mystery, but I might not. You never know. Sometimes after a month of March Mystery Madness, I kind of cool down a little bit. We'll see. So, okay. We're going to incorporate some library books in some of these things that I plan to do. One of which I've been yammering on about for a couple of months is, I said in the spring, I said kind of like the beginning of spring, but more like April, going on into April because I had a lot going on in March. A lot of which you'll see my wrap-ups and you'll see there's a lot of stuff I didn't get to finish, but whatever. One of the things I wanted was my little Catherine project. You're welcome to join in if you want, but no pressure. I call it Poets and Pre-Raphaelites, in which I, pursue my interest in the Pre-Raphaelite Brotherhood and that entire movement, which is so all-encompassing because it's not just about reading about that particular movement, but they had so many influences, both in art and history and poetry, so it gives me an excuse to read biographies of poets that came before them and after them, writers who were influenced by the Pre-Raphaelites, artists that were influenced. And I can make all these fun, nerdy connections, and I love it. I just love it. So far, just planning this stuff has been so much fun for me. Before even reading, I've been excited because I keep finding connections. What was it? I did this in a TBR. I'm not sure if I mentioned this yet. I mentioned, not TBR, in a haul, I mentioned this book. This is very wintry, so it feels weird now talking about April, but you never know. And Angela Thirkell was the granddaughter of Edward Burne-Jones, who was very much a Pre-Raphaelite. And I just love these connections. Ugh. So anyway, I doubt I'll have time to read her, but we'll see. So mainly, the on-the-nose, definitely reading about Pre-Raphaelites altogether, is this very artistic Pre-Raphaelites in Love by Gay Deli. I've had this out. I've not had this out. I bought this a while, sometime last year, I think, which isn't that long ago. But I had meant to get it for a while because I kind of want to have a proper Pre-Raphaelite library. So now I have it, and so that is something I definitely want to start and keep reading. Maybe I'll finish it in April, but if I keep going through May and June, that's fine too. Although this picture itself kind of looks autumnal. Although they might be a little cold in the autumn. So that's one. And this book I've had out. So now we're going back to library books. This book I've had out probably since autumn. And I just haven't found time to read it. And so I'm going to definitely incorporate this into Pre-Raphaelite. If I like it. I don't know. This is Lauren Willig. That summer, a novel. So quickly, it goes into 2009. Someone named Julia Conley. She inherits a house in London. She lives in New York, but she inherits a house outside London, which, I mean, this is the kind of thing that I always kind of wished happened to me, sort of, kind of. And when she gets there, in looking after things and going through stuff, they find a Pre-Raphaelite, I can't say it now, great, Pre-Raphaelite painting, so that's a connection, that's a direct connection. And then it goes back to 1849 to someone named Imogen Grantham and her story, and they come into contact with the PRB, or at least some of the Pre-Raphaelite influenced writers. So we'll see. We'll see if this is a good story. I don't know. It might be a little too romancy for my tastes, but we'll see. I don't mind a little bit of romantic, but meh. We'll see. Okay, so that's the direct Pre-Raphaelite choices. You'll see a couple other connections. Another thing I like about April. I mean, there's so many things you could connect to April. But one of the things I miss, I should say, because I go to the city once a week, but they don't have all the events they used to have. And they even had fewer of these particular events in the past few years. But I think it's April 6th is Tartan Day. Tartan, like the plaids, the Scottish. And so it's kind of like a Scottish related event, which I'm not that into specific types of days, but when I used to work in another building not far from where I work now, it was very close to Grand Central Terminal, Grand Central Station, as in it's like Grand Central Station in here, but they have a little space in the terminal area that is like for events. Around Christmas time, they have like these holiday markets where they sell all kinds of vendors come. And so they'll have special events. I remember they had one for some kind of cat food thing once, and I got a t-shirt with a overweight cat, which is appropriate in my house now, again. Don't tell Freddie. But anyway, so they used to have during April for a week, they used to have Tartan Week. And they had other events in the city, but in Grand Central they have, like kiosks and again, more vendors of just Scottishy things. And last time I went to Edinburgh, I spent like one day, not the whole day, but just like a couple of hours in Princes Street, I think, which is one of, their main streets, shopping streets. And I went to a very touristy shop and got a couple of things. I didn't go crazy, but even though it is kind of kitschy, maybe, it's fun. And at the time when they used to have this market, I was missing probably going to the UK, so it was just nice to have the closest thing, a substitute, you know? Shortbreads, plaids, probably bagpipe music, who knows? I don't know anymore. It's been years, books, whatever. So I missed that. So I said, well, I'm not going to plan too many things to read. There are other books that are Scottish related that I would love to read, but I can read that all year. I'm not going to just wait for an event. But I had this book that is an advanced reader copy that I got like around the time it had come out. So it's like I wasn't going to be able to read it in advance, so I just put it off, as you do. So I said, well, I'll read it now if I can find time to. And that is by Norman McCombs, A Reason to Be, a novel. It's about someone who, let's see, he meets someone in the steps of the New York Public Library. That's very me. He gets into genealogy, and so he's tracing his Scottish lineage. And that could be interesting. The last name McCombs, which is also the name of the character here, when I was researching my own last name, it was somewhat related to maybe Coombs or something. So it could be, there could be a connection. It's not important. That's more of a side interest. I'm like maybe a quarter. Uh-oh. The sirens are saying, yeah, check yourself. You're not that Scottish. But anyway, it's just fun, and hopefully it's a good novel. I have heard nothing about this novel anywhere else, which doesn't mean that it wasn't good. Maybe I just haven't heard. I don't hear about everything. So we'll see. And Janie wants to be part of the video today, so I'll let you know if I can read this, what I think of it. Another thing. Oh wait. Backtracking. There were a couple of paintings, which I'll probably show at some point, pictures of if I have them, of Scotland and history related to Scotland that the Pre-Raphaelites did. Millais did some of those. So, Pre-Raphaelite connections. We're doing it. Yes, we are, Janie. Oh, she's mad. She's mad because I tried to groom Zenobia, which started a whole thing today. I did manage to cut some of her claws, so that was good. You don't know. Cutting these cats' claws is like... yeah, I did get at least somewhere I got cut. Okay. So this is also a library book that I've been trying to read. And this is called In a Different Key, The Story of Autism by John Donovan and I guess Karen Zucker. I think those two different people. Either that or a really long name. April is considered Autism Awareness Month. There's a little pushback on there because it's awareness kind of sounds like, like breast cancer awareness or something. Being aware of something is good. It's good to learn about things, but the encouragement is to try to get it to be called Autism Acceptance Month, which actually makes more sense because it's more than just awareness. It's not trying to cure autism, or it's trying to accept people and the autism spectrum. What is it called? Autism spectrum disorder, something like that. Every few years they change the names. So that's still up for debate, but I think it is really good to be at least educated in some way or another, even if you're just reading articles or something about what autism is and not just the headlines of what it is and the stereotypical portrayals of what it is, but to really know what goes on for any person who's autistic, and not really using the labels, the functioning labels and stuff, because they're so much more complicated. There's so much to learn about autism. And so I thought this is a book that I saw recommended by someone who is autistic. So I thought, well, that's a good start anyway. I've read plenty of books about autism, but it's been a little while for me, so I'd like to continue this. I know I said it's to begin reading. I did read a few pages, but like 12 pages, so I think it's basically I'm beginning it. And yes, another library book that I've had out for a little while. So back to Emily Dickinson, the Fierce Woman book group, I think, has moved on to the next person, and that is Emily Dickinson. And this is not her poetry, this is her letters. I have a collection of her letters and poems, but this is slightly different. It has some extra letters maybe, and then other letters that aren't in here are in there. So I don't mind reading more about Emily Dickinson. I like her poems. I also have, let me see, turn my back on you again. I am so rude. Up here, I don't know if you could see up here somewhere, I have her biography. I do want to get to it. Maybe after I finally finish Red Comet about Sylvia Plath, maybe I'll start with Emily Dickinson. I don't think she's connected at all with Pre-Raphaelites, but she did kind of live around that time. Not in the area, but she was, alive in the 1800s. So it's a slight... I might find a connection, though, and I'll get very excited if I do. So what else do I have here? The presidential read-along. I don't know. I'll try to link that below. I keep forgetting to do the links. So lazy. The presidential read-along, I did not start with George Washington because I just wasn't really in the mood for that. But I did start reading John Adams, and I made really good progress. Hopefully I will finish that book soon, or rather than later. We shall see. It is good. I'm not gonna say surprisingly good, because it actually, I've heard great. I mean, I've read anything I've read about or from that author has been good. Anyway, so the next president to come after John Adams was Thomas Jefferson. I think he was born in April too. Either way, this book has a bookmark from the Yankee Bookshop in Vermont. Anyway. This book also reeks, because I got it from thrift books, it reeks of cigarettes. Still, I've had it for a number of weeks now, and it still smells very much of cigarettes, which I'm not crazy about. I'm going to have to maybe stick it near a window on a non-rainy day, or something. I don't know what to do with this. If you guys know anything about how to get rid of the smell of cigarettes, I don't mind if it's ever so slight, but this is like someone was literally reading it with a cigarette in their mouth the entire time. Maybe it belonged to Fran Lebowitz and she sold it back in Vermont. Who knows? Anyway, this book I actually started back, probably like 7 years ago almost, when I had what was a bit of a scare, but ended up not being a very big deal. But I ended up spending an overnight in a hospital, which is never fun, but as I was otherwise in fine shape, it was just basically a stay in a room next to someone who was a lot worse off than I was. We had our own televisions, but the news that day was really awful and sad, and I didn't want to constantly see it, and I think I had a smartphone, but it was like an older smartphone, so I don't know, I was probably charging it half the night, and I didn't have a book with me. I hate not having a book somehow, because I'd come from my job. Somehow I didn't have my book to bring with me. So when my friend came to visit, she lent me her copy of this book, The Art of Power, by John Meacham. And I started, I liked it. I've always liked, I'm not that into American history, but I like reading about certain people. And I've always found Thomas Jefferson to be one of the interesting people to read about. My friend loves Thomas Jefferson. I don't know what it is. She just loves him. So that's okay. So yeah, she lent it, but I only read like a number of pages, and then I gave it back to her, obviously, when I was done, because she was reading it. And ever since then, I've wanted to return to it, so maybe this will be my excuse. I don't know how often I will go back to, I don't know if I'm going to read every president biography, or if I'll just read the ones that I want to read about. There's certain ones that I'm curious about, but I don't know if I want to read a whole book, but that could change. So just for April, we got this, and that's great. I feel like I'm missing stuff, but what time is it? I think we've spent enough time on a lot of different things, but I have one more for you. Well, like I mentioned before, I wanted to read something from Shakespeare, but I don't know if I'm going to have the time. If I do, I'll let you know. Maybe I'll watch a Shakespeare play. I don't know, because this book I have, I put it underneath so many things that I've wanted to just read from cover to cover, which would mean reading the complete works of William Shakespeare. It starts off, it has an introduction, so I could probably just read that. But it starts off with The Tempest, which I have read and seen, and I like, but maybe not to go to that one. Then the next one is the next was Two Gentlemen of Verona, and I think after that is The Merry Wives of Windsor. I kind of want to read The Merry Wives of Windsor, because I think that's the one that they're going to have in Shakespeare in the Park in the summer, which who knows if I'll get to see that. I don't want to make any promises to myself, but we'll see. That is so theoretical, who knows if I'll even get to Shakespeare this time around. However, I have done pretty well classics-wise when it comes to Victorian classics, even some Regency, the modern classics, very well. But aside from some Shakespeare here and there, I have done very little in anything else, which I think is something that I've wanted to rectify for quite some time. I mean, unless you count the Bible, which is, you know, different to me, which I've read more than once. So, but as far as older, like, I haven't read much of the Greek myths. I mean, I've read about the Greek myths and descriptions of them, but the direct, you know, the Homer, I've read very little of that, which is another thing I'd like to do in the future. But also, I've read very little medieval, middle age, yeah, that's me right now, books, and very little. I don't think I've even read Canterbury Tales, even though I've had it since 1998. I remember where I was when I bought it on Wall Street. Sounds fancy, but it wasn't. But one of the writers I've wanted to read for ages is Dante, because, for a lot of reasons. I've only heard good things about him, but he's also connected to the Pre-Raphaelites because Dante Gabriel Rossetti was kind of fascinated with him because of the name connection, and he did art based on Dante and Beatrice and all kinds of stuff like that. So I always said to myself, I should really read Dante, especially if I'm going to get into the Pre-Raphaelites. But I felt a little intimidated to read it on my own for some reason, and I wasn't sure which translation to pick and all that stuff. So I said, well, maybe if someone else is reading it that has a grip on Dante that I'm familiar with. And then Jennifer Brooks, who I have, you know, who I enjoy most of the books that she likes, especially in the classic natures, whatever, announced Readalong starting in April. And she, I think, is using this version, the Portable Dante. I like the Black Spine Penguins anyway. So I think in April, it's like the first part, which is... I am so clueless when it comes... I mean, I've heard of all of this, but I've never really... Okay, so I think it's the Inferno. Inferno. I sound so high. We're gonna read Inferno. What, like it's hard? Okay. I'm not blonde enough for that anymore. Anyway, so this is another thing that I'm going to start in April. Very exciting, finally. So I think that's enough, right? I think you guys have seen enough and said, wow, Catherine, how are you going to do it? I'm going to try. That's all. I will start as many of these as possible, and I will finish as many of things in April that I can, and we'll see how it goes. I'm excited. I like the month of April, usually. The weather can be pretty good. I hope I can take maybe a day off or something and do something fun and safe, but we shall see. Let me know what you're reading for April and what you think of these books. If you plan to read any of these, if you're going to be involved in any other read-alongs and whatnot. There's plenty of events that I'm not going to be involved with. I have nothing against them. Just can't do everything. So that's all for now. This is Catherine at Taking Tea with Catherine. Have a lovely tea and book-filled day. Goodbye.